Brookfield Properties are renowned global placemakers. Since transforming the Manhattan banking district in the 1980s, the company has grown to more than $600 billion of assets under management, more than 30 million square metres of real estate across 30 countries. The best Brookfield developments can transform CBD precincts, and the very best of the best are called Brookfield Place, the company's premium brand. There are only 5 Brookfield Places in the world, but a new one is just opening here in Sydney. So let's have a look. The first thing you notice is a completely new arrival experience at Wynyard Station. The concourse is a fabulous open space with natural light streaming in from the entrance as you walk down to the trains. And you can see the sky when you walk up towards the lobby and park on the other side. There's a wonderful sense of orientation now. And while millions of people will enjoy the reimagined transit experience, it's part of a much larger destination story here. Carl Shabrowski explains.
Wynyard really, as a precinct, really dates back to the 1930s with the opening of the Harbour Bridge and it becoming the epicentre of the city with these old buildings like the AWA building and Shell House. Those buildings are fantastic, but they really needed a lift. What we've done with Brookfield Place in Sydney is we've righted a wrong that really happened after Wynyard Station was built and the Eastern Concourse was never realised in the way that it was intended to. This was a bit of a mixed bag of assets that were fairly tired on this site, and it was the combination of a 400-room hotel in the Menzies. We had Thackeral House, which was onto George Street, and a bit of a rabbit's warren of retail offering through a couple of ramps connected the station through to George Street. And we've essentially put it back together and maintained the pieces of it that were really worth retaining, like Shell House, like 285 George Street, like 32 Carrington Street.
So put the jigsaw back to the way it should have been from the start. And I think for me what I love about it is it's opened up this end of the city, so it's extended the city precinct really.
Yeah, and I think we've really been able to also benefit from some surrounding changes in the city, like Wynyard Walk that connects the western side back to the CBD, the opening of the light rail, which has recently happened, and then also the pedestrianisation of George Street. So we stitched into that whole program.
So Carl, so many people are going to use this space. Talk to me about what those stakeholders are and how they'll benefit from the space.
NAB is our anchor tenant. They occupy essentially from the bottom up in the building, but they made a decision that they really wanted to combine Shell House with the base of the building. And they have some really spectacular spaces in there, like an enormous void that runs up through the entire part of their overall tenancy. But their main philosophy was they said they wanted to bring the bank to the people, was their mantra early on. And they saw Brookfield Place Sydney with its high visitation as being that great opportunity for them. But most importantly, we're ultimately really looking forward to it becoming Brookfield's home. So when we move in, we'll take 3 floors and it will be our Asia Pacific headquarters.
How exciting. So this is going to be your work home?
Yes. So
yeah, great.
Essentially all aspects of the Brookfield asset management business will be for Asia Pacific will be based out of this building.
Yeah, lovely. So Carl, what's your favourite place?
I think it's the transit hall. You know, I think that's really it's that arrival off George Street where you feel that great sense of the great transit plazas like a Grand Central Station, or some of the great experiences in London where transport and the city are really well integrated into all the buildings.
The development of Brookfield Place has upgraded public infrastructure, restored a critical heritage building, renewed public walkways, and created around 75,000 square metres of premium office and exciting retail spaces. It was always imagined to be the new front door to the Sydney CBD, and to achieve that, a very special design was required. Architect Ian Lomas worked on the project from the beginning. It's a beautiful design, and of course this design won an international competition, so why was it chosen?
I started working with an Australian engineer who was based in London, and we were playing with ideas of the structure. And we thought if we build out to the block, we can use those boundary walls to take the loads down and free up the whole of that central space.
Yeah.
And what I loved about this block of buildings, this is one of the few urban blocks which is street defined.
Yes.
So we wanted to celebrate that.
Yes.
And so bringing Carrington Street and Wynyard Park back to the core of Sydney's experience, the change of level then became a big advantage. We could make George Street about public, retail,
Yes.
station.
Yeah.
Carrington Street became the commercial office entrance. That change of level meant that we could actually hang the lifts over the route below because the structure was taken to the side.
Incredible engineering challenge.
But so simple.
Yeah.
But it looked simple after.
Yes.
And the jury, they said we were the only team who had been able to solve the central core with the roots underneath.
Yeah, beautiful.
And what I love about it is it gives it a real uniqueness.
Ian, we're standing in Wynyard Park and it's been an influential part of the space for you and the design. How does the building relate to the park?
There's a sense in Sydney and in many cities that it's better to be taller.
Yes.
I always think it's better to be here.
Yeah.
Imagine, and it is so rare in Sydney, to look out into the canopy of trees.
Yes, it's beautiful.
And you can see the seasons, you can sense it, the light coming through. It's a special piece. People talk about biophilia
Yes.
as though it's some more plants in the office. When you're able to look out and connect with nature, connect with people, that is true and real there.
Yeah.
So there's still an ongoing debate, and we had the discussions with NAB, and they loved the view to
Oh, I
nature.
bet they do, yeah.
And then on the other side, you've got your full-on urban George
Yes, how
Street,
lovely, yeah.
the real promenade of Sydney.
Yeah.
And then as you go up, obviously the city opens up with the different datums, and they're special. But personally, I like being here.
People who are coming to the site for the first time and who might really enjoy design, like you and I do, what would you say they need to look at? What do they need to enjoy the most?
The thing that I enjoy, and I would encourage people visiting, is to enjoy that promenade through the site. Start in the Hunter Connection.
Yes.
Come through, rise up, move through, backwards and forwards, because it's going to keep on providing different vistas. And then, because I'm also biased, because we are fortunate enough to be designing the restaurants and bars in Shell House.
Beautiful.
So then you can go up to the roof and just be kind of blown away by that clock tower, and then seeing across this rooftop view of Sydney, which is not one that we often get access to. And I think it's enjoying both that street and then also just this wider urban vista. That's what I would enjoy. And then when you're up there, you can then look at everything and the changing light, the changing mood.
One of Australia's leading banking groups, NAB, is the anchor tenant here. Catherine Carver and her team have been working with the design and construction teams of Brookfield Place since 2016. They've created a truly unique workspace that features an astonishing 3,200 square metre floor plate that flows throughout 2 separate buildings. That's about half the size of a rugby field. Catherine, thank you for sharing your space with me today.
Pleasure.
It is absolutely beautiful.
It's gorgeous.
It really is. Tell me, why did you choose Brookfield Place as the home for your new business?
For our colleagues, it's so central. It's central to the trains, it's central to the buses. It's just, you know, in the nerve centre of the city.
Yeah, right in the hub.
I think the openness, which just kind of personifies collaboration, that's what we want to do with our colleagues. I think the fact that it's set up in a very environmentally friendly way around sustainability, which is core to our values and long-term growth. And I think the other thing is just it's so technology enabled.
Yes,
so
how wonderful.
We're like in the real 21st century.
Yes, you must be excited about moving in. I think that a space like this can really drive culture. So how will it relate for your brand?
Well, I just think it really takes our brand to a whole new level. And as you asked me before, the symbolism of this building and all that it stands for, we want to be relationship-led, we want to be respected in the community, we want to be open, we want to be trusted. And I just look at this building as I walk around it and I just go, it's all of those things.
Yeah, it really is. So Catherine, there are a lot of different ways that people will use this space. Can you talk to me about some of the diversity of work styles that will be here?
Well, I think, we are absolutely in this hybrid way of working. Now, exactly what that means for different people is going to be very different. But I think the fact that it's set up in a really flexible way, that if I want to work 4 days a week from the office because I'm engaging with clients all the time, then that can work, versus if someone's in a call centre, they might be really happy to work in a regional location and come in for team education sessions or celebrations, and there's space around to do that. So I think the flexibility of whatever you want to do, it's accommodated for in advance.
Yeah, beautiful. I think that's what I like most about the space is, although it's an enormous floor plate, it feels very different as you walk through. There's a lot of diversity of space.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. So very inclusive, open, everyone's invited into those open areas. Even if no one talks to you, you feel like you're being called into those open
drawn
areas.
into it. Yeah, that's lovely.
We have 3,500 clients in corporate and institutional. We split by our super sectors, and we're going to have our product colleagues, our credit analysts, our coverage bankers, our credit risk executives, all on the same floor.
Wonderful.
And that is super exciting.
Yeah.
But also, I just think it's a real cultural shift that we're going to get from a new building. It's not the only thing that drives culture, but I think it's going to be a really important part of what we do in terms of driving a healthier and inclusive culture.
Mike Russell is the Regional Director for Brookfield Properties, who has overseen this complex development project from the very beginning. Spearheading the entire project team, he's taken it from design concept to delivery, ensuring the building we see here today is among the finest in Brookfield's global development stable. So Mike, it's a big project, it's had a lot of challenges. I'm sure it was difficult along the way. Has it been worth it?
Well, it's been a fantastic challenge for the team, but again, with what Brookfield can bring to the table and really unlocking that development side, from Multiplex on the delivery side, from Brookfield on the corporate side, and the development expertise, we're probably one of very few groups here in Australia that could have took that project on.
Yeah.
And hence, with the government, when we went to the USP, they've wholly embraced it. They've seen it as a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for this project to happen.
Yes.
We seem to got the best group in town to give it a push. So
What was the biggest challenge with this site?
it all comes down to public and commuter safety.
Of course.
And the whole factor for government to how we could get the delivery agreement in place was, how are you going to keep the commuters safe in the event of an incident at the train station? So that was a most difficult and complex thing to unravel. And we had to split the site into 2 construction zones. We demolished half the site, built it, demolished, and we had to wait for that. This building here had to wait until this caught up.
Yeah, right.
So it's time.
Yeah, of course, of course. And unexpected things that happen along the way, that always is in construction. What were the big unexpected issues?
As we did extensive due diligence for nearly 3 years on the site before we started, shell house. Unfortunately, with the facade and the clock tower retention, what we found when we were down the ground wasn't what we were expecting. So we all had to dig deep and just help Multiplex get themselves out of the hole, so to speak. I think the stakeholder communications and just really the relationships had to be worked hard at that time.
Yeah, for sure. It is a legacy piece. It's really iconic. It really needed to be done. I can't imagine any other company but Brookfield doing it. Is it something that you're proud of?
For me personally, it's really for the team and Multiplex. It's been a long journey, but also for the customers. We had NAB, Allianz, Brookfield.
Yeah.
We've got 4 co-owners. We've got the banks behind us. Transport. They cannot be more pleased, and they have and still are just talking the praise for the delivery team.
Yeah.
And Multiplex had an absolute exemplar safety record,
well done.
which nothing else matters, and everybody going home safe at night to see their family. So
yeah, for sure. And this is going to be your new home too, your new work home. How's that going to be?
it's going to feel very different from our current place. So I think it's turned out fantastic, and people are just not going to know themselves when they get here. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of happy people.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, Mike, tell me, what's your favourite place here?
For me, Amanda, and I think you'll hopefully agree with this, level 27 roof terrace. There's so many roof terraces and office buildings that just don't get utilised.
It's true, especially in Sydney. I never understand it with our beautiful weather.
And it's there. This one will be, and we've got a tenant there who's going to wholly embrace it, so I'm really pleased. get a roof terrace.
Yeah.
Not to name the last building it did had a large roof terrace, and I don't think it's been used in 10 years. So I'm extremely proud to see something being used.
Congratulations, it's a beautiful space.
Oh, thank you, Amanda.
Patrick Murphy is the Regional Director for Multiplex, whose role was to see the project's ultimate delivery. It's a breathtaking undertaking when you consider there have been over 8 million hours worked on site and 7,200 workers inducted, involving 166 trades and over 80 consultants. I'm interested in some of the challenges that you face. So the clock tower and shell house really stand out for me. Can you tell me about those?
The challenge really was, how do you support a 400-tonne clock tower and a heritage listed facade whilst you remove everything below. That was the challenge, and for a facade of that size it was a huge engineering feat.
And so you must have had a look at various solutions for it. Were you tempted to pull it apart, take it away, put it back together?
Yeah, we looked at that. That was one option which we spent quite a bit of time on, but given its significance from a historical perspective, the risk was just deemed to be too significant for us to pursue that. So it was more about, let's retain it in its position and work out a solution that enabled us to do that.
And so there must be no other development globally that's had a similar problem. Like, you had to come up with something completely unique.
I think there have been many facade retentions and clock tower supports over the years, so I wouldn't say we've done something completely unique, but I think the solution that we came up with the challenges that were faced in ground was extremely unique. So I say yes, it was unique in that respect.
Yeah.
And certainly the height of the heritage building was, I think the Southern Hemisphere is one of the biggest facade retention buildings.
And it is beautiful. You must be really proud of it.
Very proud of it. A lot of hard work and a lot of detail. When we first started the project, the building was never really recognised when you walk past it on the street. And the journey to get it to what it looks like today is, we're very proud.
Yeah, you should be proud. And Pat, tell me your favourite space here.
It's kind of like asking, what's your favourite child or who's your favourite child? I really like the 285 George Street rooftop, which integrates with the NAB tenancy.
Yes.
The fact that the tower cantilevers over that space, and we've repurposed a whole lot of old water tanks and made them into planter boxes, and that's a really special space, so I really like that. The through-site link for me, it sits behind us at the moment, the scale of that, and it's been hidden for so many years.
Yeah.
And the construction journey to build that, just getting the materials in and out of that space while you got pedestrians below you, one of the busiest streets in Sydney.
Buses,
out the front.
Trains, trams, the whole thing.
This is great space.
It is beautiful.
Yeah.
Let's pause for a moment and think about some of the things we've seen on our trip through Brookfield Place Sydney. Upgraded public infrastructure, a new office tower above a busy CBD train station, the restoration of one of Sydney's most important heritage buildings, a massive floor plate for a major bank delivered over 2 separate buildings, and the complete renewal of an entire CBD precinct. And when you consider that all of this was done during a pandemic and without disruption to transport timetables, it's truly a remarkable achievement.
There's a number of things that we think make Brookfield Place Sydney truly city-changing. First of all, by virtue of naming it Brookfield Place Sydney, we're giving it a name reserved for really the best of the best assets within the family of Brookfield commercial assets around the world. To be a Brookfield Place, you need to fulfil a number of criteria: a large, significant-sized precinct, premium-grade office accommodation, mixed uses, very high sustainability credentials, in a global gateway city, and in a location built to thrive for the long term. We can't wait to see you here.